How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you again.
Good. Good to see you too. It's been a busy morning for me. So thank you for being patient and waiting for me to join you here. But now we're going.
It's all good. It's all good. It's about, being chill. It's the summertime. People are a little bit more relaxed,
Yes,
enjoying the
it's
weather.
true.
I get it.
You've given me
Hopefully
grace.
staying cool.
Thank you.
Of
Trying to stay
course,
cool.
that's
I
what
had
it's all
had
about.
the window open in here. Yeah. I had the window open, but it makes a little bit too much noise. So I closed
Oh,
it for
well,
the
I'm
podcast. So
no
I'll
worries.
be
I'm
warned.
actually in our laundry room because that's where I do most of the recording because the sound seems to be really good in here, which is
Right.
funny. But of course, I don't even think there's like an air vent in here at all. So I might be a little glowy by the end of our recording today. I
The good thing
think I
is if
already
you
am.
suddenly pass out. No, you're loopy in the best way. Loopy like a whisk.
I didn't say loopy, I said glowy, but loopy works for
Oh,
me as well most times.
and I said
That's
if
okay.
at least if you pass out, I will watch you fall and I will call White Rock police or some kind of
For help.
emergency services for you.
It's all good. Hopefully, I'll like hit the back and my husband will hear that.
Oh, good. He's home. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
all
what are you
good.
baking?
Yeah, so, well, let's see here. I had a busy baking weekend because we had some nice invites out to hang out with some friends this past weekend. So I actually finally got a chance to make that Japanese cheesecake that I'd been wanting to make for a
Oh,
long time.
yes.
And then I also made some chocolate bonbons. Filled with that whiskey caramel sauce that we just posted the recipe on our Instagram page just recently. If you haven't had a chance to grab it, you should. It is a
Go
really
back
good
and
one.
find it.
Uh,
Yeah, that
yeah,
was
go back and
posted
find it.
on July 3rd is when it was posted. So go
Ooh,
back to July
look at
3rd.
you. Well done, Missy.
Actually, today, maybe the 4th.
One of
I'm like,
those
wait, it's
days.
been a busy morning. I can't even remember, but I remember it was this morning, so it was the 4th
Okay,
because I woke up and
there you go.
went to the bathroom and opened up and there was your caramel recipe and I was like, "Oh, how awesome she's posted the caramel recipe." So, never
Yeah,
mind,
it's
July 4th.
that's all right. It's all good. I mean, the days go by so quickly. But
Mhm.
yeah, so anyway, and I also made some homemade s'mores, made the graham crackers, made the marshmallow, and tempered the chocolate discs that went into the whole thing, and put
Awesome.
together a nice little board for our friends get together. And it was amazing, very well received, especially the homemade s'mores. They're amazing. And
That's
and super
awesome.
easy to do. They sound kind of complicated, but they're really not. So give it
Good.
a try. It's so much fun
That'll
to
be the
make.
next recipe that you post then.
Hopefully, yeah, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe. How about
That's
you?
awesome.
What have you been up to? What's happening in Lisa's kitchen?
Well, everybody saw my baking crap for the eggless vanilla sponge that I made. So the cakes themselves turned out really well. And then I had some leftover batter. And I have a friend whose daughter has to be egg free. She has an anaphylactic reaction to eggs. And so I was like, oh, I have some leftover batter. I'll make up those cupcakes and I will give them to her. And then, Maddie can have some and that will be great. And so I texted her while they were in the oven. I was like, guess what I'm doing? And you can have, anyway, needless to say, they did not work out. They were so many different shades of wrong. I can't tell you why it didn't work, but yeah, you had kind of outlined a few different things that could have gone wrong in our baking craps post. Um, so my friend Kristen didn't end up getting any of the cupcakes for her little daughter, but
Oh,
she was still thankful that I thought of them. So, but the reason that
well,
I'm making eggless sponges is because I have a friend that I work with, and she wants me to recreate her parents' wedding cake for their 50th anniversary. But there's someone in her family who has a reaction to eggs, so had to make an eggless sponge. And so I had made all of those lovely round ones, and then I looked closer at the picture that's 50 years old, and I went, I think that's a square cake. And so she went and found some more pictures, and yeah, sure enough, square cake. So I
can
went to
you cut them
Katie,
into
our friend
squares?
Katie. Well, I could, yes. So I took actually the 8-inch round ones and cut them into smaller squares.
Hmm.
But then I had to bake the bigger size again. So I went to Katie and just asked because the recipe that I used, it was okay, but I wanted to see if Katie had a good eggless vanilla sponge recipe. So Katie Stymist, our lovely Caked by Katie, she gave me a couple of different options and I tried one and it turned out really well. So
Nice.
that's what I'm going to be throwing together, this side by side comparison of a 50-year-old cake with columns. So it's going to
Ooh,
be fun. I think the original was actually fruit cake decorated with royal icing. We're not doing that. We're doing an eggless vanilla sponge with buttercream. And that's final.
that is a very, very good plan, my friend. I still am amazed at all those cakes from back in, well, I'm not sure how far back they went, but they used those columns and how some of them stayed up.
I
Um,
know, I'm a
you
little
know,
nervous about it.
You'll be fine though. You're a genius when it comes to the architectural design of cakes, and yeah, you totally amaze me every time you do those huge three-tiered monster cakes, and then
Well,
um,
thank
and
you.
and I'll never forget your audition cake for season 8 of Great Canadian Baking Show as well. That was insanity to the
Oh,
to the max, in a
thank
very,
you.
very good way. So if
Awesome.
anybody can pull it off, I know you can.
Well, I'm really hopeful. So thank you for the encouragement. I will definitely take that with me and then I'll be working on it soon. So we shall see.
I can't wait to
Um,
see it.
thank you. Perhaps you would like to introduce our next guest.
Absolutely. Well, as you may know, I dibble and dabble in chocolates every so often. I love how beautiful little works of art they can become, and one of my major inspirations for that is our next guest, who is none other than the incredible mirror glazing chocolate bonbon chocolate queen, Kathy Choffe, who was in the inaugural season of the Great Chocolate Showdown, season 1. And since her time there, she has just put on a massive clinic of how to get things done with regards to cakes and mirror glazing and again the chocolate work. She is amazing. I can't wait to chat with Kathy, and she's just an incredible person in general. So can't wait
Uh,
to have a chat with her and hopefully learn a few tips along the way on
get
how
all
to
her
do
secrets.
the magic. Yes, exactly. How to
Yes.
create that magic that she does.
Fantastic. I actually definitely need some help with the mirror glaze. So, yeah, bring it on, Kathy. I want to see.
Mhm. Okay,
How are
Kathy,
Hi.
you?
hi. How are you? So excited to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to meet you finally, Lisa and Christina. I love chatting with you. So, this is going to be a really fun hour.
Yes, with that big, beautiful smile.
And Kathy has the signature red lip. I think she gives Taylor Swift a run for her money. I love it.
It's very
I
impressive.
actually went, I'm like, this one is discontinued. So, I actually went and looked up what hers is. And of course, I'm sure it's sold out for the next 40 years. Like, you cannot get it because it's
Oh,
similar to the one
no.
I have. And
That's
I'm
the
like,
worst.
oh my.
We'll find Kathy at Sephora over the next little while, trying on all the red lips and finding the right shade for you.
I need the help.
I won't be able to help out there.
How much more do you have left?
I think I have 4 tubes, and I'm trying to be very judicious about it.
Do you use a brush to put it on or do you like full on?
No, lip liner because my hand is not that good. Lip liner, and then in we go. So I'm probably going to have to get a brush just to make sure I get every last ounce out of it.
Try to make it last. Well, it looks fantastic. I wish I could get away with a red lip like that.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
same
you very
here.
much.
Same here. You totally like slay it.
Oh, you guys are so
Yes.
kind. Thank you.
Kathy, what have you been making lately?
Bonbons actually, which
Shocking.
I had I haven't made bonbons in a couple of months, and I was really feeling the itch. And I know, Christina, you probably feel the same itch from time to time, right? And you just got to get in there and do it. And so bonbons are where it's at for me right now.
That is amazing. So, what kind of bonbons do you make in?
I'm doing white chocolate
Mm,
and white chocolate passion fruit filling.
Oh my gosh, I would
sounds
love those.
lovely.
Yeah,
I love that
I
combination.
managed to score some really good passion fruit puree out of the grocery store because
Oh,
normally you have to buy it at a baking supply
Amazon.
store,
hmm.
and I managed to get some, so I'm like hoarding right now, and
I
so it's
bet.
like again like the lipstick. It's only every so often I drag out the passion fruit if I'm really interested in making something with it.
There you go. It is very
Passion
odd to
fruit is the best.
find something like that in a grocery store. So, which grocery store did you get it at?
It's part of the Loblaws chains. It's called No Frills. And
Yes.
yeah, like in
Okay.
my area too, which I have no clue why, but I happen to be in my ever long quest to find it. I just happened to be scrolling through my Instacart and I was like, "Oh my god, they actually have it." So I did not Instacart it. I went in person to go get it and I basically shelf
Yeah.
cleared.
I
So
bet.
So everything passion fruit from here
Worth
on
it.
in for the next.
that's it.
How long does it last for? Is it a fresh passion fruit puree
Frozen.
or
That's my question.
frozen?
Frozen. Yeah, so
That's even
perfect.
better.
So it's in my freezer, wrapped very, very well in extra bags to make sure that it stays as fresh as possible. And now I'm making passion fruit everything, right? So cheesecake, mousse,
Yeah.
bonbons.
That sounds
Love it.
amazing.
Love it.
Wow, that's so.
Yeah.
And did they have any other purees or just the passion fruit?
Oh, just the passion fruit. It was really weird. I don't know
That's
why.
so random.
Yeah, it is so random, and I'm
It's
happy
weird
about it
and
at the moment.
Yes,
fantastic. Yeah,
right?
exactly. My husband texted me this morning and he said, "So do you have any use for a 5 foot stand up freezer?" And I was like, yeah, I probably could make
Yes.
some use of that. And now I'm like, can you add on a plane ticket to the No Frills in Toronto? Except, of course,
Yeah, there you go.
there's no passion fruit puree left. But yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that it
Kathy's
magically
purchased it
appears
all.
in my laundry
Yeah,
room.
like I said, shelf
Yeah,
clear, but maybe they restock. I don't know. But yes, no,
yeah,
I know the freezer is
I
everything,
can
isn't
find
it?
it somewhere.
Like
It really is. Yeah.
as a
I have
baker,
this little
the
tiny chest freezer and yeah, no, not fun to dig down through that.
We bought a small freezer actually that transitions from fridge to freezer. So when I'm doing a lot of heavy baking, I bought it for actually just before my son got married last year. So I had
wow.
to batch bake everything and needed a place to store it in, and it worked out brilliantly. But most of the time it just sits as a fridge. But every so often I'll like take everything that's in the fridge, stick it in freezer mode, put any cakes or anything like that in there.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
very helpful. Very helpful.
I've never heard of anything like that.
That's
That's
pretty cool.
great.
No, me neither. That's awesome.
Hmm. Yeah.
Gotta love my girls.
Can't wait to see those on Instagram.
Thank you.
I can't wait to eat one. Oh wait, I don't
I,
get to eat one.
You got chocolates from somebody
yeah,
else.
did you get chocolates from Steven?
I did.
Oh, lucky you.
Did you share? Did you share
We
with
actually
me?
live in the same town. Yeah,
You and
yeah,
Steve
actually,
do?
and I know his
What a
wife,
coincidence. I had
Stacy. I
no
knew her
idea.
Oh really?
first
Ah,
because she was an EA at my son's school
Wow.
and worked with Mason. So, and she's lovely. She's so wonderful. I mean, both
I'm
very
sad
nice
I haven't
people.
met her yet. It is a
Yeah,
small world. Yeah, she never
what a
comes to any
small,
of our
yeah,
small
get
she's
world.
togethers,
great.
so I don't know if she's just trying
That's
to
very cool.
leave us alone to have our baker talk or if she's
Yeah. And
busy
so
or
do you
it just
ever make,
happens to not work out, but
Oh yeah,
another time.
do you and Steve
yeah.
get together and geek out on chocolate at all?
No, no. I mean,
Yeah.
we chat, we DM and stuff, but we haven't actually taken the step to get together in
And
person, which is hilarious. So, because we should, like, I mean, we're basically 5 minutes from one another, but we
that's
just
Yes.
great.
haven't.
And
I
both
don't know.
lovers of making
Yeah.
chocolates and making beautiful little works of art as well. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I think you should
Yeah.
totally do that.
Yeah. I know. I probably
Yes.
should. I think I'm
This is
still
your
in
sign.
my COVID era where I'm not getting out. I'm not seeing
Yeah.
people.
Fair enough. So Kathy, how did you get started in your baking journey? What did like when did you start baking? Why? Any inspirations along the
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, I'll give you the standard answer, and then I'll give you what I think is the real answer, and the and the real reason, or the real like root of it all. But I was very fortunate to have a stay-at-home mom when I was growing up, and she loved baking. So it's that classic story of, sometimes it's the mother, the grandmother, the aunt, or sometimes even the dad. And she loved to bake. Now, mind you, she was a woman of her generation, so if there was a cake in the house, it came from a box. But there was always cakes, cookies, things like that. And my first baking memory really is every Christmas, my mom would gather my sister and I, and we'd, as little kids even, and we'd make like shortbread cookies for Christmas, cut out shapes and sprinkle sugar and all that kind of stuff. So that was something that I think really kind of kick-started me in it. But the real answer is, apparently when I was 2 years old, and I don't know if both of you are parents, but when you're a parent and you've got a toddler in the house, and then all of a sudden everything's really quiet, and something's happening that shouldn't be happening, and they're up to no good. So apparently that happened, and my mother went looking for me, found me in the kitchen where I had managed to climb up by myself onto the kitchen counter, and I was eating butter straight from the dish.
Love it.
I mean, I think my destiny was pretty much solidified at that point. Like, you're going to be baking no matter what you do, because apparently butter is like life. So that is, I think, the
runs in your veins.
root of it all. And
I
yeah.
love it.
I mean, because who doesn't like butter?
That's interesting.
Well, it was probably salted butter.
My family found me eating a coffee crisp with the wrapper still on, so.
How did that taste?
Can't remember now, but my diapers were apparently quite interesting for some time after that. But.
Oh, oh my goodness.
I know. I'm thinking, okay, I
Now
don't know
back
what
to
that butter
talk.
did to my 2-year-old veins.
That is hilarious. But yeah, well, you can't
Well,
go
I can
wrong with
only
butter.
imagine what it did to your diapers.
At least it wasn't, I can't believe it's not butter. That would be worse.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lestra.
No bueno. Oh my God, can't even. Talk about diapers.
Totally.
No.
So that is such a great story, Kathy. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Let's not talk about diapers anymore. I'm sorry.
Let's move on to some better stuff. Chocolate.
Yes, my
so
favorite.
You were in the inaugural season of Great Chocolate Showdown, season 1. And so tell us about that journey. How did you find out about the show? What was the audition process like? What was it like being on the show? Share your experiences with us, please.
Sure. So I started applying for baking shows when Great Canadian Baking Show first came to Canada, and I had not seen the show, but I had friends that had family that was from Britain, so they had somehow got some sneaky way of watching the show. They had loved it, and then when they heard that it was coming to CBC, they immediately texted me and said, you have to apply, because I'm sure, similar to you ladies who I know who have applied as well, you're probably kind of like the dessert person in your circle of friends, right? Like, anytime you go somewhere, anytime you're entertaining, everyone expects you to bring dessert because you love to do it, and your desserts are usually pretty good. So I was, encouraged to apply. I did. I was fortunate enough to be called for an audition, and, didn't get on. I think that was 2017. And the following year, same thing, went to the audition, didn't get anywhere with it. And then the same thing again in 2019. And sound familiar? So, and actually it was interesting to me, because I think the last time I went for the audition, they said to me, they, as you guys have been, I'm sure, like they come around, and this is at the time before COVID, when you were still going in person to these group events and what have you. And they came around and said, like, we know it's frustrating, just keep applying, because it's about, the mix of the cast and all that kind of stuff. And, we can't have two people named Kathy, and we can't have two people with long black hair. So, might not be you this year, but blah, blah. So, but it's really disheartening sometimes to kind of put yourself out there. So I think after that last one in 2019, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. Like, I'm kind of getting a bit demoralized here. And everybody at these auditions is so amazing. Like, that is the best part of the auditions I found, meeting people, meeting other bakers, meeting your tribe, meeting people who like the same thing as you, but also there's super talented people there, and you sort of, it's a little bit disheartening sometimes. Anyway, so I kind of given up on the idea, and then I got this DM. So a producer for Great Chocolate Showdown slid into my DMs and was like, hey, we're casting for this chocolate show. I think the working title of the show at the time was Chocolate Masters. So we really are looking for somebody to come in and be on this show. And I'm like, chocolate? I don't, and don't tell anybody this, ladies, but I really actually don't even love chocolate. Actual chocolate flavor. So I'm like, and I was thinking,
you just told
okay,
everyone,
I think the only time in my life I've ever tempered chocolate. Yeah, right.
Do you want us to edit that out?
I'm kidding. No, go ahead. I didn't admit it during the show. I was thinking it every day. Every day I was thinking it. I don't even really like chocolate. What am I doing here? But anyway, so, I was thinking, the only time I've ever tempered, because they ask you at one point, have you ever tempered chocolate before? And I'm like, yeah, by accident. Like, this was not something I intended to do. So no. So I know nothing about chocolate. So long story short, I actually said, no, I'm not interested. I don't think it's for me. I'm not really skilled in chocolate. I'm a home baker. I don't have any, pastry chef training. So I am not your girl. And coincidentally, another friend of mine that was from the sort of Great Canadian Baking Show audition community also got a DM, similar DM. So we were comparing notes because, of course, our first thought was, this is a scam. But then we decided it wasn't. And they actually came back to me and said, look, like, because I'm guessing they were getting a lot of similar reactions from the people they were reaching out to. And so they said to me, look, you don't need to have like these major chocolate skills. We'll help you. We really are looking for home bakers to come in and take on something kind of challenging. And we'd really like to see your application if you're interested. Okay, so I thought, well, this is probably going to go like the other three did, which is I'm going to go through all this trouble, make my little video, send it in and see how it goes. And I got called for an audition, except it's very different from the, at the time, Great Canadian Baking Show process, where it was a Skype audition. And initially they had said you can make any kind of chocolate dessert that you want. And you'll have like, I can't even remember what the time was, maybe like 10 minutes to make it. So I was immediately thinking I'm going to have to swap out like they do on Food Network on the cooking shows and all that stuff. And so I had planned this whole, like one of those, I don't even know, I can't even believe I was going to attempt this for the audition. So I don't know what I was thinking. Just shows you I knew absolutely nothing, but I wanted to do like one of those spheres that has like a little dessert inside and you pour over the sauce and melts it and opens up, right? Like this is a really great thing to do on an audition for someone who's never really tempered chocolate. Way to go. Anyway, fortunately for me, they ended up changing their minds and sent me another DM and said, you know what, look, we want to keep it simple. So you get to choose from these 3 desserts that you can make. Like I think one was a chocolate mousse. One was a cake pop, and I can't remember what the third one was. And I thought, okay, if there's one thing I've learned from the Great Canadian Baking Show auditions is you need to have a story when you're doing this audition. And the premise was that I would take this small dessert and I would make it on Skype while they were watching me and asking me questions. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to have a shot at this, I'm going to have some kind of story. So we had just been to Italy for a wedding anniversary trip. It was the first time I was ever in Italy, literally like a month before the audition. So I ended up choosing to make chocolate espresso mousse. And I served it in a little espresso cup, and I made little Swiss meringue, little kisses. to put on top. And then I made modeling chocolate and made a little croissant to represent what our breakfast was in Italy every day. So it was unnerving, to say the least, because I was trying to figure out, how do I talk? Like, that's what you really realize. And I noticed this in the GCBS auditions too. It's like, how do I talk and actually bake? It's very weird. And also try to make eye
Mhm.
contact and look like I smile and look like I'm engaging. And yes, you want to put me on your show. That's hard to do. So anyway, it was a really fun process. And the producer that was interviewing me was really great, really nice. So she asked me a bunch of questions, blah blah, and then after that, it was very much like every so often I get another call. So Kathy, have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Would you be interested in this? Where do you live again? What do you all this kind of stuff, and then eventually they offered me the show. So it was a really cool experience. Oh, hello, hello.
So it sounds like quite the process to even just make it on there. I'm glad you stuck with it and went all the way. And obviously, it was wonderful that you made it on the show. And I know that's how I first,
Yeah,
connected with you, was after the or during the show, after the show, when you started up your Instagram page, etc. But so I'm very happy that that brought us together, which is yeah.
yeah, me too.
So you make it on the show, and then what happened?
Yeah.
Where did you film? What was
Uh, Yeah, then it was filmed here in Toronto, in a soundstage. So not like the tent. Fortunately, and I've heard that tent is hot.
That's
Thankfully,
the
which I'm
story
not
going
a big
around.
fan of,
Mhm.
but thankfully we were in like an actual studio soundstage kind of thing where they built the set and they kept it ice cold. Now I've heard on future seasons of GCS that's
Mm,
not what happened, but for us they kept it ice cold because they
yeah,
need the
yeah.
chocolate to set quickly,
Yeah.
right? So that was an advantage. Although they tried to put me in sweaters, like the wardrobe they were trying to give me was like sweaters, and I'm like, no, no, that's not happening because I'm going to be so stressed out. No. So what did I do when I got to the show? I was stressed the entire time, but I will say, I have to say it's one of the most interesting and exciting and fun things I've ever done in my life. When I look back, I know logically I was stressed, but now it's like having a
Mhm,
baby. You
mhm,
don't remember the
mhm.
labor or anything. It's so magical. It's this magical experience. That's kind of like what I feel about GCS. I met some really amazing people. I was tired all the time. Um, but also, I feel like it really kickstarted my baking it took it to a
Mhm.
whole other level, and it allowed me to feel like I could do more than I thought I could. And so it kind of motivated me to push myself and really develop my chocolate skills, for example, and mirror glaze and do all these things that 2 years before I would have said were like way too hard. And there's no way I was going to be successful at them. Instead, it's just kind of pushed me to keep
Mhm.
going and really teach myself
That's
more.
awesome. And now you're the
Mhm.
queen of those two things.
I don't know about that, but I love doing it. I'll say
Well, the
that. I love
passion
doing it.
shines through in your
So,
work for sure.
oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
you have to teach me how to
Thank
do a
you.
proper
So,
mirror glaze because Steve helped me out with the tempering chocolate, but the mirror glaze, I have three, like, you know, I mean, I'm almost 50 years old now. I have way too many tabs open on my phone, but three of them are different mirror glaze recipes, just in the hopes that one of these days I will find the one that works properly. So,
it is a thing. Like, I learned the hard way because the recipe I was working from was like, bring it to a boil. Well, actually, I've learned like, don't
Yeah.
bring it quite to the
okay.
boil. Like just the simmering around the edges, not this rolling boil, which also was what we were kind of, given
Mm.
advice on the
Really?
show, was like, yeah, bring it to a boil. And I'm like, no, I know. I go, no, no, it makes it extra rubbery sometimes and maybe not as shiny. And so it's little things you learn along the way, but you're right. it can be a tricky
Yeah.
thing, but like bonbons, I think that's really why I like it is you can just go
Mhm.
crazy with colors, and you half the time I don't know how it's going to end
Yeah.
up looking, and I actually enjoy that.
That is really fun because you can watch it and just be amazed by it. Oh, that's what it was supposed to look like. I had no idea.
Yeah. So when you were on the show, I mean, the challenges, you had both the individual challenges as well as the team challenges.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah.
prefer?
Well, I have to say, I got very lucky with the cast that I was on the show with. And I would say, while some of us are now not necessarily in touch, the there's a there's still quite a few of us that are very, very close because that
Mhm.
experience kind of bonds you in a weird way. And so I got very lucky. I was part of 2 team challenges, and I got great partners each time. It still makes it doubly stressful though, because if there's 2 of you working on a challenge, they expect something
Mhm.
really grand. And so I feel that's why I kind of laughed a bit, because while I loved my partners, I just remember that as being more stress
Right.
for that particular challenge. But I was paired with
Mhm.
Rainu on one challenge, and she's just
Mhm.
fabulous if you follow her. She's
Mhm.
such an artist. And then I was also
Mhm.
partnered with Casey, and Casey, thank God for Casey. That was my day. I feel like everybody on the show had at least one day where they sort of had like a breakdown of some kind. Yeah, it didn't matter, like crying in the corner. And that challenge with
That was the one.
Casey, thank God for her, because she pretty much like
Mm.
saved the day. I had something like I was making this icing and it didn't work. And you wouldn't have seen any of this. I can't remember if they showed when I dropped all the chocolate on the floor and it got everywhere. And we were trying to make bonbons for this cake. And anyway, it was a bit nuts. And to the point that I actually snuck into the pantry because I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to allow myself to cry for 30 seconds. And that's it, because any longer than that, there will be a camera on me. So I'm just going to like go in there, cry a little bit. No one's going to know. And I'm going to come back out and then put the smile on my face, try to get it together. And Casey was
Mm.
just so amazing. She really, really was a wonderful partner. And thank God for her, because our cake didn't turn out. It didn't turn out. And that's not her fault. That was day. So she was a really good sport
Yeah,
about
I
it.
guess that extra pressure you were speaking about would be so real and intense because you don't want to let your partner
Yeah,
down. Uh, yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
it. You nailed it, Christina. I just felt so bad. I mean, I'd rather just be
Hmm.
responsible for
Mhm.
myself, because if I make a mistake or it doesn't go
Hmm.
well, then it's
Yeah.
on me.
Hmm.
There's no one else to blame. But to, have somebody else be possibly eliminated because of something you've done is just an
Yeah.
extra level
That
of
would be a
pressure.
terrible feeling.
And we had very long days because they were trying to figure out
Mm.
the format of the show. It was
Mhm.
the first season, and they'd never filmed a show like that before. So we sometimes would get picked up in the mornings at 6:30 in the morning to be brought to set, and we wouldn't be getting back to our hotel until midnight or 1 a.m., depending on how late your confessional went. And it was just they ended up tightening it up, but we in future seasons they had it. I'm so happy for them because they had days
Oh,
off. We
wow.
didn't have that. It was just go, really long
No
days.
wonder you were tired all the time.
Not
Yeah.
every day what you're doing. Is my chocolate going to be tempered or not? No clue. Let's hope.
Right? Steve's
So
tempering challenge. Let's see, is there a snap?
snap, and I'd be like, please snap. But please God snap. But again, like I said, I tell you all this, but when I look back on it, I'm like, it
Yeah.
was so cool. Like it was just a really cool experience. It's stressful, but
Yeah.
cool.
And one of the things you mentioned was about the other bakers that were on set with you and just being in the trenches with them. And it just brings you that much closer together. And it sounds like you're still in touch with a number of them, which is awesome.
Yeah, it has been one of the greatest pleasures to still have a lot of close friendships with a lot of these folks, and some of
Mhm.
them were Americans, so that's kind of
Yeah.
cool too, right? Like it wasn't
Mhm.
just a Canadian
Mhm.
show. and you get to learn about, as much as we think we know a lot about the US, we don't. So it was cool to learn about other people and their backgrounds and what they've been through in life. And we just had a cast that was pretty
Mm.
caring. Like, I'm not saying we were perfect and all angelic, but we really did
Yeah.
That's
bond.
And
awesome.
that's one of the great things about the community. We speak about this on the show quite often, our podcast show quite often, is just how wonderful the entire baking community is and how supportive everyone is and how gracious and generous they are with sharing their talents and their skills with anybody who asks. And I know you do that in like endlessly with your platform, your YouTube videos that you do, your tutorials. You're just such a great resource for a lot of people that are getting into doing things like, well, baking in general, but mirror glazing and especially all your chocolate work. And it's just awesome. So thank you for your generosity.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I have to say, when I first finished shooting the show and then wanted to come home and try to do different things, like I just found that like there were no resources out there. And that is one thing, as much as I'm like not in love with Instagram and filming all the time, and I really loved your post the other day about, the
Mhm.
fails and you're just trying to get the camera angle, and honest to God, I'm like so sick of trying to pipe some beautiful cake and the camera's here and I'm trying to get the light right, and oh my God, it's like, can't I just go back to a still photo? All that being said, what I do think has been great about the evolution of Instagram is there are a lot
Mhm.
more tutorials
Sure.
available now. And I feel like a lot of people, and I think you're right, the baking community is generally
Mhm.
very generous with sharing knowledge. And we all, for the most part, want to lift each other up and help each other enjoy the same sort of baking that we do. So I think that's been a positive, although I'm so tired of filming videos.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I don't know if you know, Kathy, that I for the last is it 5 seasons, I bake along every week to the Great Canadian Baking Show, so I do all 3 challenges every single week when it's airing,
Ah,
which is a fun
yeah,
personal challenge for me. But then,
yep.
the season before last season, I mentioned it to somebody. I think I was in Home Sense or something, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool! You should start a TikTok." So I was like, "Oh really? Would you watch it?" He said he would watch it, so I made a TikTok, and all of the video, it just takes so much extra time.
Mhm.
You're like, I just want to bake this and get this done. I don't want to have
Mhm.
to set up camera angles. I don't want to
Done.
think about shots. I don't want to, because it doubles the time that
Mhm.
you're taking to just do the
For
challenge. And if you're
Yeah.
trying to do a timed challenge, that just adds to it. So last season I didn't do it at all, but
I know.
it's really fun now when I go back and I look at that old TikTok account and I see every single video from every single challenge that I did, and I was like, you know what, I really should do that again because there's value to it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's the time that you invest
yeah,
into it is a different sort of time than the investing that we really want to do, right? Because we want to invest in the beautiful
yeah,
bake and not necessarily how we're showing that beautiful
Mhm.
bake.
yeah,
But yeah, I really
yeah.
appreciate that you take the time to do that.
Yeah, well, I was cursed. I was doing something on the weekend, a cake, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sick of this." Like, but you got to go with what the flow
Mhm.
is, I guess. And
Yeah, the
but I'm
demand.
starting to go back. Yeah, and I'm starting to go back and do a little bit of some still carousels,
Mhm.
just to kind of change it up a
Yeah.
bit and go back to some older content that I've had that maybe some of my newer followers
Yep.
haven't seen, more inspiration type stuff. And that reminds me of what
Good.
I loved about Instagram when I first
Yeah.
Yeah.
joined. So,
We
Yeah.
need to refresh that sort of enthusiasm in our own minds
Yeah.
yeah,
occasionally. Yeah.
And know that the work
yeah,
that you are doing and the extra effort that you are making is so inspirational for so many, including myself. I
And
get
being appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. So no, it's not for, and
well, that's
I'm
very
sure I speak for many others that are just so happy following you and learning from you and being inspired by you.
Wow, that's very, very sweet. And I really appreciate it. And that's how I feel about every baker. I mean, Christina, your caramel recipe, like I said, saved. I will be trying that. And That's the best part of
Mhm.
social media baking.
Mm.
There's some really downsides to it, as we all know, because everything is supposedly perfect. And I love that you guys post fails, and sometimes I try to do that too. But the best part is the sharing of the
Mhm.
knowledge, as I said, and it's just I feeling like you have a community of people who all like the same thing
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, and like you said, Kathy, at the beginning of our chat, you're probably you're the only one in your circle who bakes as much as you do, and it's the same
Yeah,
thing with us, right? We don't have a lot of people that we can quote unquote nerd out with. They usually, their eyes
that's right.
glaze over, like a Tim Hortons glazed donut, because they're
Yeah,
just like,
totally.
are you finished talking now? We just want to eat. You
Yeah.
don't have to give us all the details about how you made
That's
it.
exactly it. It's like, yeah, like I'm just gonna eat my slice. Can you stop telling me how you made this? Like it's good.
Right,
I'm just
right.
gonna eat
So it is just such a
it.
pleasure to be able to use social media and geek out with people. And this podcast has really given us even that much more of an opportunity to speak with our favorite people that inspire us, and it's just so much fun and wonderful, a great opportunity, and we're so tickled pink that people want to talk to us as well, or are happy to talk
Yeah.
to us, and that is mind-blowing amazing for us. So we're having
Uh, well, I think it's exactly what you said though.
yeah.
We all want to geek out
Mhm.
together, and that's the way I was so excited for today. I'm like, I'm working, and then I have something fun at the end of the day because I get to talk about
Yay!
baking with people I
That's
like.
so awesome.
Nice.
Yay!
How do you balance that? Because you're not
Yeah,
only doing your baking on Instagram, you are
yeah, and I mean, no, you're totally right. And I do work a full-time job, and my job is um I love my job, don't get me wrong, but I work in HR, and if you know HR people or have worked in HR, oftentimes depending on what area of HR you're in, and I am in this area that I'm going to talk about, it can be sometimes negative. And sometimes it's not always a happy, shiny
Mhm.
day. And I honestly have come to rely on baking to balance that out. Because when I bake or I'm pouring a mirror glaze or working on chocolate, I am not thinking about work. I am not thinking about anything else. I am in such a zen and happy place. And I'm sure you ladies are
I get
too
Mhm.
it.
when you do your stuff. And it just totally turns the other part off in my brain. And I think that's how I've managed to cope with
Mhm.
COVID stress and, because we're still weirdly
Mhm.
dealing with a
Yeah.
lot of that in the
Mhm.
workplace. And, it's just, so it's finding the long-winded way of saying it's finding the time when I can, and I make sure I make
Yeah.
time because it is that balance for me. And I found that I
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
depend on it.
And then I
It's so
think when
true.
you are in a high stress situation, having that outlet that you can, like you said, Kathy, turn off that part of your brain and just turn on that creative side, or just working with your hands. There's just something so therapeutic about that, and that
Yeah.
love that pours from that. And what a nice thing to have at the end when you have this gorgeous bake, delicious bake that you can share it with others and spread
Yeah.
some joy.
And you make people
Exactly,
happy.
spread that joy, because that's what it's all about. Baking is about
Exactly. Yeah.
bringing people together and enjoying that nice little bite and having that escape from maybe a reality that isn't so nice. And there's a lot of crazy in the world these days, and baking brings the love
Yeah.
and joy that we need more of.
And interestingly, I've found that, like in my job in HR, a lot of what I do is to try to reduce risk, mitigate risk, prevent risk from happening at all, eradicate it. And I didn't realize I was doing this, but I've now come to see that what I'm actually doing in my baking is kind of balancing that out, because all I do in my baking is take risks,
Right.
is push myself, do something
Nice.
different, learn something new. Yeah, you don't think you can do
Yeah.
it? Well, just try. And if you fail, you can either just show that on Instagram, or you don't have to show anybody. It's up to you. But I don't know what it is in me that just keeps driving to try to figure something out and do it and take on something even if it
Hmm.
I love
seems
that.
super hard.
Hmm.
That's fantastic, actually, that you've recognized that. Be like, okay, no risk here, but
Uh,
hey, let's take all the risks
Let's
here.
The other thing that you enjoy doing is traveling, and specifically foodie travel. And I love when you're away on a trip, Kathy, because your Instagram site is just bombarded with all these incredible meals. And I literally am doing this when I'm watching you because holy man, you eat well.
I had to
It's
stop
amazing.
myself from hitting the heart because I was flipping through all your stories and heart and heart and heart, and I was like, "Oh, no, 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 she's gonna get overwhelmed with all the hearts."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And there are times that I forget. Like, honestly, I started posting this stuff mostly for our son, Mason, and also my mother, so that A,
Yeah.
she would know I was alive, and B, she would know what we were up to, so I wouldn't have to, like, have like a 3-hour debrief upon my return, really. And then I began to realize other people are actually care. I just assumed people
Oh,
would like skip by. And then people are actually looking at it. And in this most recent trip, I thought, oh my God, all I did was
oh,
post what I ate for
It
lunch.
was
It
great.
felt like, but apparently
nice.
people enjoy that. So yay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'd
think
rather
I'm.
have
Oh,
savory than baking. Like, I'd rather eat
mm,
actual food
Yeah.
than what I actually bake.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was just drooling over it. Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the meals that you had were so incredible and so much. How do you get through it? I mean, probably balances out with a whole lot of walking that you're doing in between going to your next place to eat.
Yeah. 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 That is Yeah, the previous 2 trips we did were actual culinary tours, and Anna and Michael Olson were our hosts of the tour. So they don't run them, like there's a tour operator that runs them, but they are the hosts. And there's tons of like I have to say, if I could put in a plug, it is definitely a great trip to go on because if anything, you're super tired because they've crammed so much into it. Yes, and those ones in particular, you're
Mhm.
walking a lot. And this last trip, that wasn't what we were doing. My husband had a business meeting that he had to attend, so I
Perfect.
tagged along, and then we turned it into a bit more of a trip. And that was just a lot of eating and going back to the hotel and going, oh my God, I can't believe I ate all of that. Um, but I
Oh,
don't
no.
regret it. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's a great way to experience the
Mhm.
culture of the country. And you really do learn about the culture. I just think traveling, I mean, obviously is
Yeah.
amazing, especially if you're going to places where there's a lot of history and there's monuments
Mhm.
to see that you've heard about your whole
Mhm.
life. That's really fascinating for me. And then to learn about the
Mhm.
culture through the
Mhm.
food and how they cook and what's important to
Yeah.
them in that particular place that you're in. I love learning
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
So and trying new things like yeah, in France, we were in Lyon most recently, and we land in Lyon. We go to this Bouchon, which is basically I don't know if you know anything about Lyon, but it's sort of like it almost seems redundant to say this, but it's the gastronomic capital of France, which I would
Yeah.
think every city in France is like pretty much the gastronomic capital of something. But anyway, it really is, and their focus is on like sort of this homey food, big rich sauces, big heavy dishes. It's a good place to go in winter because it's all like that. And so we're going in summer. So I was like, well, how's this going to go? And we sit down at a traditional place and I'm looking at the menu and they have this, what they call a formula, which is basically, and if you've been to France, you already know this, sorry, but you get your starter, you get your
Mhm.
main, you get your dessert. And it's all
Mhm.
for like a prefix, right? And there's just limited choices. And so I was looking at the menu and I'm like, I'm not sure what all these things are. I say to my husband, like, oh, but let's look at this. Oh, this looks good. I think it says andouillette. And I'm like, oh, that must be like andouille sausage. Okay, let's order that. That'll be good. So, by the way, I did not post this photo. Um, so we order the sausage. In the meantime, my friend, knowing I'm going to Lyon, has texted me and said, oh my God, are you guys there? What are you having for lunch? I said, yeah, we just sat down. I've ordered this andouille sausage type, andouillette, which sausage is what I called it. And I didn't get a response from her. And I was like, okay, oh, well, whatever. The meal gets set down in front of us. And instead of seeing like this big sausage, I look at it and I immediately know I have ordered something I'm not sure I should have ordered. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking this. And meanwhile, I'm like, okay, my husband, we're not going to alert him to anything being wrong here. We're going to pretend like this is exactly what I thought we were
Okay.
getting. And we're going to start doing it. And we're going to not think about what this could possibly be. So we get about halfway through, and my husband's like, I don't know that this is really sausage. I mean, it's good, but I don't know that this is sausage. And maybe we should look this up. And I'm like, well, maybe we shouldn't look this up. Maybe we should just enjoy it. And whatever. He's like, no, let's look it up. Look it up. It's pig intestine.
Ugh.
And I'm like, okie dokie. Yep, I kind of knew. If I had to have guessed, I might have said it was tripe, which I know is sort of like, which I want no part of ever in my life. No offense to people who like tripe, but I can't do it. So I'm like, okay, so now we know that. We're just going to put that over here and we're going to pretend, not pretend, we're going to finish it or mostly, and just, great. We had a Leon specialty over here. And so then my friend, I realized what my friend is doing is she knows what I've ordered and she didn't want to tell me. So I message her back and I'm like, yes, I realized I did order an egg pig intestine. It was really good though. And she's like, yeah, so I didn't actually want to respond to you until maybe you
that's hilarious. Oh, so you did like
So it did taste good?
Oh,
I did. It was, you know why? It was partially fried. I mean, it goes, my theory is if you fry something, it's going to taste good, generally.
You're not wrong.
And it came with this really, one
Maybe
thing
not
about
a
Leon
passion
is
fruit,
everything comes with the sauce. Yeah. It was actually quite delicious. And so do I think I would order it again? I don't know. Because I think it's a mental thing at this point. It's like I don't want to think about what I'm eating, but it was actually quite delicious. So don't be afraid.
Oh, now I want to go try it. I'm ready to be adventurous.
If you'd actually checked it out in advance, you wouldn't have ordered it, likely.
That's 100% true. And that's also partially why I was like, you know what? Let's wait till we're completely finished. Then we'll look it up and then we can just reconcile what we're going to find because I know it's not going to be what I want it to be. And versus how it tasted and just feel good about that.
What was your favorite meal that you had in this last trip? Your most memorable or the tastiest dish that you had?
Now that is tricky. I would say the most memorable was we went for afternoon tea at Fortnum and Mason in London. And if you've ever been there, it's just a fabulous room that you have the afternoon tea in. And then the store, there's several levels of stores down below and with different goods. And I don't know, I'm a huge afternoon tea freak. I every so often will do, like, just for the three of us, a whole afternoon tea. And I'll bake for like 2 weeks, getting everything ready and make sandwiches and everything, just because I just love the idea of it. So that was really memorable. It was really, really fun. And as far as the food, it's strange. I had this one dish that at our hotel in London that was really, really good. It was this white asparagus because it was in season and you don't get that very often. And that was really, really good. And I was surprised because it was at our hotel. Like, we went to some really nice restaurants and, food was good. Don't get me wrong. But I was focused on this one at our hotel restaurant, which was kind of funny. Yeah. But I mean, I would say the most memorable meal altogether was we went to this small town in the south of France. And just on the outskirts of the town is a really, really nice restaurant that just got its first Michelin star. And so we went in and it was course after, it was a tasting menu of 9 courses and we had a wine pairing with it. And I just have never tasted such interesting things put together and it works. And I never have, I mean, I was trying to like take it in to go, okay, this is what you need to do in baking too. Like, incorporate more savory ingredients into your sweet bakes and figure out unusual taste pairings because it can be done and you just need to be inspired by that, I think. But again, I had another like little moment where I was the first one. My husband laughs about this because my husband loves cheese. So I was calling him Monsieur le Fromage because that's all he ordered for dessert. Like I'd be with the sticky toffee pudding and give me the French pastries and he'd plate. And so we had this cheese plate as part of this meal. And it wasn't a plate, it was actually a trolley. And there was this big grand lid and it swung out over the table. And there was all this cheese, and, French cheese, unpasteurized,
so good.
glazed cheese.
My tummy hurts. Great.
And the first thing I dig into is the stinkiest cheese. And while I love cheese, not so much with the stinky cheese. And so I'm like, oh God, this is like the pig intestine scenario. Only I enjoyed the pig intestine and I'm not liking this cheese. So I'm going to have to get this down and be very delicate about it. Let's have a sip of wine. Yep, that was great. Let's go to the more normal cheese. But it was, so I just keep doing this to myself, I think, but it was really, really an amazing meal.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Kathy?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. What's the next chocolate challenge? I think I'm thinking I want to try a chocolate sculpture, which even as I say it makes me feel sick to my stomach, but I think I got to try that.
Take your risk.
Yeah, and just, that's it. Right? Like, and then I can't stop thinking about it. And then I'm like, no, I shouldn't do it. No, I'll fail. And then I'm like, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. You never know what you'll uncover about yourself or figure out how to do if you don't try. So that's what I've been thinking about, is where next to go with chocolate.
Chocolate has become, this big art form for you when A, you had not really done much with chocolate, and B, you didn't like chocolate.
No, I know, it's so strange. Like I am the vanilla girl. Like I will be vanilla, lemon, passion fruit, bring it on, fruit flavors. I'm in. I'm not the person who goes to a restaurant and orders a chocolate cake. So it's kind of weird to me, but I think it's because now I'm seeing it as more of a medium as opposed to something I can eat. Like I really love figuring out what's the next fun chocolate decor piece to make for a bake or whatever. So fun.
Makes sense. What are you hoping to make? So you've been thinking about doing a chocolate structure. Any idea on what you'd like to create?
No. I mean, I think if anything, I was starting to think about, creating content for fall and winter and Christmas. And maybe challenging myself to do some sort of a chocolate sculpture for Christmas or somewhere, or Halloween even, and doing something like that is more of an artistic piece as opposed to like a little piece of chocolate I'm going to put on a cake. Not to minimize that, but you know what I mean? Like just it's on its own. People are not going to eat it. It's just going to sit there and I'm going to be able to say that I accomplished that. So I'm interested to see whether I can come up with some sort of a design, but
the wheels
see how I do.
Turning.
I think, like so many things that you do, Kathy, I have no concern and no worry that you're not going to be able to create something stunningly spectacular. So I can't wait to see it.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, you may surprise yourself, but you won't surprise anyone else.
No.
Yes. Well, that's nice.
Well said.
Well, thankfully,
awestruck, but not
I have people like you to believe in me and encourage me. So it's good.
We're rooting for you.
Thank you.
We are. So Lisa, I think it is time for
this or that.
Yay!
Are you ready, Kathy?
I am.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, you know what? I added a question to it.
Cool.
Because we have the list, but for some reason I was like, okay. So my first question for you is going to be, when you're baking, what are you listening to? Podcasts or music?
Music. What kind of music? What's your jam?
It's usually either an 80s mix or it is like electronic dance music.
Oh, that'll get you pumped up for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. So like, very different things, but it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in, nostalgic or I just want to get moving.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. And you know what? The 80s is so classic. in the sense that the bands in the 80s, there was just so much fun music in
Yeah.
that era that maybe because we kind of all like grew up in that era, I want to say.
You're in that
So
era.
it's just so much fun. Chocolate. Now we know you're not a huge fan of it, but if you're going to be creating some beautiful works of art that you do you like using the sort of standard dark milk white, or do you prefer using all the funky flavored chocolates that are out there these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I use the standard flavors generally for my bakes. As far as like if I'm molding bonbons,
Mhm.
then it's probably going to be dark milk white or even gold. I love the Calibo gold. It's one of my favorites. But I do have secret stashes of the really nice Valrhona chocolate, which is I
Mm,
treat myself. And I really, really adore the raspberry inspiration. And so I would use that, for example, for fillings. And recently I made a layered mousse cake, and there was a raspberry inspiration layer in that. But it's stupid. I hoard, you buy the nice things, then you hoard them. I
I
don't know
know.
if you do that.
Oh,
Like,
all
oh,
the
I have
time.
to save this for a special occasion. I'm like, use the damn chocolate. So,
It's like
um,
wine. Wine is similar.
yes. So I'm trying to convince myself to use the dang chocolate more
Yeah.
often. But I do love, I've tried the yuzu as well. Next up, I want to get the passion fruit, but I
Mm,
Yeah,
love the
that's Steve's
raspberry. So
favorite. Steve, or that's the one that Steve has been using anyway.
yeah,
yeah,
His wife likes to
and
snack on it apparently, which is
yeah.
dangerous. But
yeah,
Oh yeah, I can see. I am sure because I love passion fruit, which I think is why I've held off getting it because I
mm,
think it would be very, very bad.
yeah.
tempting to
Through it in a
actually
day.
eat it, which wouldn't be a horrible use for it either, right? Just eating it
No.
right out of. Yeah.
Enjoyment.
Where do
It's
you
Yeah.
usually?
worth it.
Right. Where do you buy your chocolate? Where's the best place to get chocolate?
Okay. Well, for me, I order it generally from one of three places. Papagino's Foods, plug for them. That's online. You can't, obviously, it's very difficult, particularly in Southern Ontario, to order chocolate in the summer
Yeah.
Mm.
because you just can't. So if I have to get chocolate, then I'm typically there's a store called Flower Confections, which
Hmm.
I
also
love them.
ships countrywide, and I actually will go to their store. It's near where my in-laws live.
Oh, perfect.
I can go there. It's not close to me, but close to them. And so sometimes I sneak and ask them to buy me stuff in Burlington.
Art.
Anyway, and then also McCall's, which is a pretty standard place. Um, yeah, so it just depends what I'm looking for. The Valrhona is a little bit harder to find,
Yeah.
Hmm.
as you guys probably know.
Which is
Hmm.
So
why you don't want to use it for anything because you don't want to have to seek for it again. Seek for it?
no, I know, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's expensive. It's more expensive than the
Yeah.
Calibo. I
Hmm.
mean, but you can tell the quality. I will say that.
Yeah.
I was so impressed by the fluidity of that
Really?
chocolate when I was.
Mm.
It's really, really nice, but
Uh,
it costs more. So it's just to play around. I can't really justify
Mhm.
playing around with Valrhona,
Yeah.
yeah.
um,
Fair enough.
Expensive.
although I'd love to.
Yes.
Yes. I'd love to try your fails.
Yes. Exactly. We're all for them.
Send them our way.
We'll sign up for that.
When you're tempering, do you use a bain marie or microwave?
Mm-hmm.
I was trained to use a bain
Mhm.
marie. I do not. I use a microwave.
Okay.
I swear by that method.
Okay.
So
Now, do you use a stainless steel bowl? That seems to be a hot trend these days.
yeah.
Ah,
Yes, I do. I have since the beginning, and it was a miracle to discover that they didn't blow up in your
Yeah.
microwave. But is the only thing I temper in is a stainless steel bowl
Well,
in the microwave.
it
hmm.
still scares me. The
Okay.
thought of it scares me, but
It,
Right.
I
Same
know
here.
it's miraculous, really. I mean, weren't we trained from young kids? Never put metal in the microwave. And when Mason saw me do it, he was like, "Mom, what are you doing?" I'm like, "It's fine.
It's all
Love you."
good.
magic.
Yeah, that's crazy. I haven't been able to do that, to put any metal in the microwave at all. I don't know why. I still have that fear. You're just ingrained,
Yeah,
with that. But
yeah,
but
you're right.
maybe I'll try it.
Stainless steel is fine. You're good.
Okay, as long as it doesn't touch the sides.
Touch the sides.
Yes, that's what I heard
That's
Steve said, and I've not tested that, nor do I hope to ever find out. But I'll believe him, but I have not experienced that myself.
Let's not test it. No.
No,
Let's not test
no.
it. No.
Okay. Favorite foodie city? Toronto, London, which you were just recently there, or Paris, which I know you've been to before.
Paris.
Mm.
I mean, the butter, right? Like thinking back to my butter escapades at 2, like I'm obsessed with the butter. You go into the stores in France and there's like 5 different types of butter. And it's
Mm,
not that it's just, oh, gee, this is just a different brand. No, it's just a different level of salinity or a different thing of this and some sort of fresh creamery. I don't know. I don't care. I want them all.
I know.
So Paris for sure.
Oh,
Yeah, and and I don't disagree with you there either. Paris is just so amazing on so many other levels. It's one of my favorite cities as well. The butter, though, you can't bring it back to Canada, though. That's so sad.
No, I know, but I recently saw a TikTok where somebody had packed this carry-on like thermos with French butter. And I'm like, good for you. I don't want to deal with that at customs in
Yeah.
case, I mean, maybe wouldn't have to. I just didn't want to find out.
Mhm.
But I applaud her. I applaud her because
Yeah.
that is smart.
That's an interesting way to get it into the country, I guess. I know I had somebody I know who just came back from France and she brought butter, not knowing that it's actually not allowable from Canada Customs, I guess. So all of her butter was confiscated. She was sad. She was
Oh,
so
Painful.
disappointed.
That's so painful.
Yes, that would be.
yeah. That's no, I mean, that's a nightmare.
A travesty
That
is what
is
it is.
truly
Yeah.
a
On,
very, very horrific thing to think about.
on so many levels.
Yeah.
On so
Yeah.
many levels, like that you finally had this butter that you're probably looking forward to doing something really cool with
Yes.
or just eating it,
Yes.
and then it gets taken away from you.
Or giving to your 2-year-old.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay, she's with you.
do you take anything in it?
Nope.
Nope, just
No,
clear.
I don't. I really don't drink, to be honest with you, I really don't drink much of either. I've only just started putting coffee flavoring in desserts actually, because I've just never been a fan of coffee. And
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe as I get older and my palate is slowly dying, I might need the
Need the
bitterness of
stronger
coffee. I don't know.
cake or chocolates.
Cake.
For eating are we talking eating or are we talking creating?
Oh, I
Oh,
was talking eating because, of course, we've just been talking about food all afternoon. Chocolates.
yeah.
Eating
Eating
cake,
cake
vanilla,
and making chocolates.
making
Creating
chocolates.
Okay, so before we move on to the next this or that question, your vanilla cake.
Sorry.
Just a regular plain vanilla cake with the vanilla icing, or do you like to like jazz it up with passion fruit?
Yeah, sometimes I wouldn't mind putting, I love a lemon curd filling in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But now that I've got a lot of passion fruit, there's going to be passion fruit fillings everywhere.
Love passion fruit. Mirror glazed cakes or buttercream? I mean, you still need buttercream,
Mirror
right?
glaze. And again, this is making, not eating, right?
We are
Because
talking
I'm very
making, I
fixated
think.
on eating. Okay, making mirror glaze.
Okay.
It's the fun part for me of like, okay, we're gonna throw these colors together. We're gonna kind of throw it on here and then see what happens. And I'm just as surprised as you guys are when you're watching it. So I love that.
Yeah, and it's so mesmerizing to watch those videos.
Neapolitan ice cream. Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry? Is that what we're asking, Christina? Do you like
I was
one?
literally just having this conversation with my husband.
Oh, really?
We were talking about when you were a kid, what was the flavor? And if you had a sibling, like, was there a war?
Yes.
Or did it all kind of work out?
Or did you end up with
And
just one strip of
so,
strawberry in the package afterwards? Yeah.
right? Because that's what happened to everybody that I talked to. But, in my house, my sister is a big chocoholic.
Mhm.
So, and as you may recall, I'm a vanilla person and
Mhm.
my mother loved the strawberry. So
Perfect.
it was a very harmonious household.
Weird.
Now, in my husband's household, there was fighting over the
Mm.
chocolate. And
Mm.
so there would be the strip of the boring vanilla, let's say, or whatever the case.
That's
So
too funny.
kind of funny.
I always
That's
did
hilarious.
I
Yeah.
always thought that the chocolate ice cream was too I didn't it was too much chocolate flavor. So I would always mix
Yes.
the vanilla and the chocolate together. That
Mm.
was my like ideal out of
Smart.
Neapolitan. Yeah.
I took the vanilla because I too am a strong vanilla gal. I love vanilla. And my brother used to take the chocolate, and it was my dad who used to eat the strawberry because my mom didn't really eat ice cream. So yeah,
Ah,
so it
smart.
worked out really, really.
Smart.
It was perfect.
That is perfect.
Yeah, and I'm doing a whole Neapolitan series on Instagram, I think next week.
Oh,
I
that's
made a
awesome.
Neapolitan ice cream themed cake. So anyway, but yeah, so it was funny when we were talking about that. And if you go and you ask, I love this question because if you go and you ask
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
they all have different
Yeah.
answers as to
Mhm.
how it all went down in their family.
Yeah. Yeah. Too
Yeah, it was
funny
never good.
because that's what we had as kids.
You could get the ones that actually had all three flavors swirled together. That's just you can't do
Oh,
that. No. No.
No, no, no,
no,
no,
that's
no.
so wrong. No,
No.
no. Keep the classic
Just a
Neapolitan
flag, a
separate.
Yes.
flag of ice cream.
There's a reason it's
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yes, because
right?
your spoon fit perfectly
One
into the one layer, and then your mother be like, "What are you doing? Get it out of the container."
Where do you get most of your inspiration from? Other Instagram people or Instagram accounts, I should say, Pinterest, Facebook?
Instagram,
Yeah.
Instagram accounts. Just I try to follow a lot of pastry chefs, other bakers, and just try to gather whatever little tidbits
whatever
I can
catches your
get
Mhm.
eye. Yeah.
to take me to that next thing that I want to try.
Yeah.
Our last question, the most important question of all. Butter tarts. Raisins or no raisins?
No raisins. No, and I will fight that position to the death. Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm a recent convert, so it's all right.
People know, don't come to my house if you want raisins in them. Okay. Like it's just
Mhm.
not going to happen, let alone the currants. I mean, that's a whole other level of no.
Oh,
Um,
see, so at the end of every episode, we actually ask for your baking scrap that you can share with the rest of our listeners. And that could be a tip, a trick, a piece of advice, something like that that you want to leave our audience with.
my baking scrap is if you are going to get into bonbons and start trying to make bonbons, I would really recommend getting a heat gun.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm,
they're just so helpful for cocoa butter. They're helpful for warming up your shells before you cap them. And I honestly, and for cleaning up, honestly, like cleaning up your palette, cleaning up all the stuff, cleaning up your counter, let the heat gun go, boom. And you can
Nice.
clean chocolate up pretty quickly. So I highly recommend getting one of those.
like with a flame? Like a torch?
No, it
Okay.
looks like a hair dryer.
Okay. And
Yeah,
it
it's a heat
warms
gun, and
things
mine
up.
is Black& and Decker.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't blow air. It just kind of, well, it says kind of blow air, but it gets it can get really, really hot. And so you could use a hair dryer if you wanted, but I sort of have not like loved the idea of putting my hair implement near the chocolate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you can do that, but I like the heat gun. It's just quick and easy.
Perfect.
I think I need to go
Add to
shopping
cart.
again. How can can heat guns be used for other household
Well, yeah,
uses?
they're not made for bonbons. They're actually made, I found out, for removing
Ah,
wallpaper.
Okay.
we don't have
So
any
so
wallpaper.
it's actually like the one I have is a Black& and Decker. Like you can get it
Yeah.
in a
Home
hardware
Depot.
store
My
and
husband probably has one in
contractors
the
would have
garage.
them. Yeah. And so it's also helpful, by the way, if you're tempering and you want to, your chocolate's kind of slowly going out of its working temperature.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
want to keep it at temperature.
Yeah.
You throw your heat gun on there, stir, 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 and your chocolate is
Exactly,
staying
that's
warm.
awesome.
So
Okay.
it's super, super handy if you're doing a lot of chocolate work.
Yeah, that makes sense because I think that's I mean, maybe you have a trick for this, but you do your initial chocolate, get that into temper, you do all your initial shells, and then you put your fillings in. And then for your capping chocolate, I find that I have to go back and retemper stuff. So with the heat gun, as long as you like just hit it with the heat gun for
Every so often, and you're keeping it on. The other trick that I have for that, by the way, if you need to keep your chocolate warm for a while, is I use a heating pad like you might use for your
oh,
back,
okay, yeah.
and I might put a tea towel over top, and I will set
Mm,
again my stainless steel bowl so it conducts heat. So you just have to
mhm.
keep an eye on it, but you can keep your chocolate bowl on top of your heating pad, and that'll keep it nice and warm.
I
Oh,
mean, it's
that is
better
so
advice
awesome.
than the
Well,
advice that Steve gave, which was don't start, right? Which was advice that was
don't
given to me.
start.
Yeah, I heard that, and he's not wrong.
No,
By the way,
I
he's
am
not wrong.
learning this. I haven't started, so I'm okay with it so far.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's an easy, well, baking in general though, with
Yeah,
everything that's available, all the different tools and everything, but chocolate's a whole other level because nothing's actually terribly inexpensive. The ingredient costs are expensive.
yeah,
All the molds
yeah,
are expensive.
yes,
And there's so many beautiful ones, so it's so hard to resist.
I believe.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And I still get the thing about chocolate is challenging, right? So I still
Hmm.
get nervous. I'm making
Hmm.
bonbons. I'm like, okay, I think it's gonna be good, but I tried a new ganache recipe today. I'm with my passion fruit, so I'm like, okay, I don't know what consistency is gonna be. So I still find it challenging even with the number of times I've made them. And you still gotta like make sure you follow the rules, you know
Yes,
what I
yeah,
mean? Which
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
be a little bit daunting
yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, and I find my kitchen's a disaster after I've done work, finished working with chocolate as well. It's
Yeah.
like chocolate like
Too.
everywhere,
Yeah.
all over me, all over my
Yeah.
phone because I'm trying to take pictures.
Oh yeah, because we're trying to film it while it's going at a
Right?
temper.
Yep,
Right.
exactly,
Exactly, because that's what we do.
definitely.
Kathy, it has been such an incredible pleasure having you join us today and sharing your journey in this crazy baking world that we're all in. And thank you for, again, everything that you do to help other bakers or aspiring bakers to just get in their kitchens and bake and experiment with chocolate. And you make it look so easy, by the way. So thank you for that,
Mhm.
because we know it's not, but you really do make it look beautiful and easy, seamless. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's been a really, really fun way to end my day. And it's always such a fun, exciting thing to talk to other bakers such as yourselves. And you guys are just the nicest and
Oh,
funniest too. So
oh,
thank
Thank you
you.
so
so
much.
are you. Thank you so
We really
much.
appreciate your time, Kathy.
Okay.
Now go make a fabulous meal or something simple because you've done a
Yes,
lot
Okay.
today.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your
Thank
day.
you
you.
as well.
Bye.
Okay.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, that was lovely.
She is lovely.
She is.
She's just such a warm, wonderful person and such a wealth of knowledge as well in the world
Yes.
of chocolate and mirror glazing
It's crazy
and
to me
bakes
that
in general.
she went on a show called The Great Chocolate Showdown when she didn't like chocolate and didn't work with chocolate. So
I know.
that
Well,
is
Gavin said the
exciting.
same thing. Yeah,
Gavin
remember
said the same
Gavin
thing. And
mentioned the same thing.
yes. And
Yeah,
people have mentioned to me, well, why don't you go on The Great Chocolate Showdown? And I'm like, because I don't do chocolate. So, but now I'm like, apparently nobody does chocolate until they actually get on that show.
the Great Chocolate Showdown, or they've been on Great Canadian Baking Show where they've had Chocolate Week or something.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah,
Which I would probably struggle with, but that's okay. We won't go there
no,
right now. I don't have to worry
I'm
about it today.
no. Hopefully next season you will have to worry about that.
Hopefully, one of us will have to worry about it next season. We shall see. We're getting lots of tips and tricks that we need to like make a spreadsheet. Let's be Vincent and make a spreadsheet about how we're going to actually do all these different things in the tent if we ever get there. So,
Better yet, maybe we can get Vincent to just help us create that for us.
can you just make us a spreadsheet, please?
Yeah,
We're
color
putting it
code
out there.
it.
Yes, my sir. What
Do
a
you
good
think he'll
idea.
help? Think he'll help us? Vincent, would you help us with that?
We need you,
He's
Vincent. Well, thank you for
so cool.
introducing me to Kathy. I am very happy. I was really enjoying following her travels and all those food posts. I'm very hungry now after even thinking about them. So I think I know what I'm going to do
I
tonight.
know.
Eat food and
Ooh.
watch the Brat Pack movie.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. I thought you were going to maybe indulge in some of her special sausage that she had in
Oh,
her
I don't
Lyon
know where
trip.
I would get that, but, I think the whole idea of, saving the special chocolate or saving the special bottle of wine is I might grab one of those special bottles of wine that we've been saving and just say, "The best occasion is no occasion," and just cheers to me,
Exactly.
and cheers to the
It's
1980
Thursday. It's Thursday today. Just, yeah,
Thursday.
cheers to Thursday.
Cheers to Thursday,
Yeah.
to my first day of vacation days.
Woohoo! That's
Woo! We're
awesome.
so
Well,
ready. Yes,
I
I'm ready.
right? Summer vacation. There's just something so cool and awesome about that on so many levels. So
I'm
I
very
hope you get
excited.
a chance. Yeah, and
Thanks,
especially
buddy.
for you who's in like a relatively high stress profession, and
Mm,
I'm sure your downtime is so well needed. Just
precious.
to yeah, I
Yeah,
can imagine. So
yeah.
decompress, enjoy.
Will do.
Hopefully, you're doing
Thank you.
some great fun stuff along the way.
I will definitely make time for it. So, thanks,
Good.
Christina. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll
Have
see
a
you
lovely
again.
rest of your day. Mwah.
You as well. Bye.
And bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us again for this episode.